in writing, we are focusing on fictional narratives. So I hope you watched the video on fictional narratives. So in a fictional narrative, there are different elements. So they have events, a solution, a problem, a setting, and characters. So we are focusing on fictional narratives because we are going to create our own fictional narrative and we are going to write a spooky story. So what we are going to do is first we need to brainstorm. So today or yesterday, you focused on picking a setting and characters. So we focused on the animals, the people, and the creatures that we are going to have in our story. So for our characters, they need to be realistic or unrealistic. So in a fictional narrative, you need to have things that aren't necessarily true. So my characters, I could have talking animals. I could include myself in my story, and creatures such as fairies or unicorns. My setting is the where and when is your story taking place. So it could be real. So it could take place in Warsaw, but my characters could be fairies living in Warsaw. When is it taking place? Is it taking place in the future in 3023? Or is it taking place in the past in the 1600s? Is it in the fall or the winter? And then we also have our problem and solution. So what problem is the character facing? And how is our character going to solve the problem? What is the solution? And then our story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we can't just say that my fairies were living in Warsaw and that their problem was that they ran out of water and their solution was that they found a creek. That is not a good story. Our good story needs to be included with a lot of details in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we are going to practice the next month and a half creating our fictional narrative and making sure we have a lot of details in our beginning, our middle, and our end. So every fictional narrative is made up. It is not real, but they can have realistic and unrealistic parts to it. So we are going to be the best authors that we can be. So if we look at this book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, we have some realistic parts to it. So Harry and Hermione are real people, but they are wizards. And then our creature, this is not a real creature, so that is unrealistic. Do you think it took the author J.K. Rowling a long time to create this book? Look how thick it is. Let's look at it. Or do you think he did it overnight? I think he took a long time. So what he did when he created this book was he went through the writing process. So we have pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. So we are going to focus on our pre-writing phase. So brainstorming and organizing our ideas. So yesterday you should have brainstormed the different characters that you want to include in your story. So characters are the people, animals, or things who take part in the story. And then you also focused on the setting, the time, place, and environment in which the story takes place. So you should have completed these slides 1 through 6. So number 1, the first slide, is picking your setting. All we are doing is picking the setting that we wanted. So I have a castle and a cemetery. Now we are just brainstorming our thoughts. So that does not mean that these have to be in my story. These are just ideas. For my characters, I dragged over the characters I wanted. And now I want you to add a little description to them. So my monster is spooky and tall. My pirate is loud and old. My vampire is hairy and mischievous. Now, right now, I don't have any grammar, so I have no commas in between these, and I was spelling wrong. But that is okay because we are brainstorming. This is not our final piece, so it is okay to make mistakes in this. So you should have completed 3, 4, and 5 and created and thought about the different characters that you wanted in your story. Now you can go back and add descriptions or names. Remember, this does not mean they have to be in the story. Another thing you are supposed to do is this is your graphic organizer to jot down any thoughts that are not included in these. So your characters and settings that you thought of that are not on these slides. So you need to type them in here. So myself, I want myself to be in my story maybe. So I wrote that down. Maybe my dog Buddy. So I wrote that down. And my setting, Warsaw Elementary School. That wasn't included in my setting up here, but maybe that's where I want it to take place. So you are only working on your characters and your setting. And remember, these are just ideas. You are only brainstorming. Good authors take a long time to think about what they want to include in their story. So at some point, we'll go through and pick our final characters and setting, but we need to pick that when we are finished with our problem and our solution so that our story makes sense. So right now we are just brainstorming our ideas. So for Friday's work, make sure you have slides 1 through 6 complete, only setting and characters. And if you haven't yet, go back and type a description that goes in the blue, so filthy. For the setting, you do not need to do anything. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And if you have not watched the videos on Google Classroom, be sure that you do.